Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has asked the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, to urgently refer the allegations that lawmakers padded the 2024 budget by irregularly inserting projects worth 3.7 trillion naira to appropriate anti-corruption agencies for investigation and prosecution. SERAP is asking him to also immediately reinstate the whistleblower, Senator Ningi, was recently suspended from the Senate over his allegations that the lawmakers padded the 2024 budget by irregularly inserting projects in that sum. SERAP has also asked him to make a public commitment to discontinue the patently unlawful constituency project in the next budget cycle. Mr. Kolawole Oluwadare is the Deputy Director of SERAP, and he joins us live from our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Oluwadare, for joining us tonight.
Good evening. Thank you very much, for having me.
Thank you so much indeed. It does look like what you are saying at SERAP and what Mr. Femi Falana, today I saw a statement from him quoting several case laws and sections of the Nigerian laws to say that the suspension of Senator Ningi is illegal. On what basis?
Thank you very much, So we have to look at several contexts to these. One is the legal context and the factual context. When you look at the factual context as to what Senator Ningi had said against the background of history, what has happened over the years in the Senate and the National Assembly, you would see that what he has done is simply expose corruption. And perhaps some will impugn his motives for doing that, but I think that is relevant. And again, when you look at the legal context, the Senate, being a public institution, holds a responsibility to Nigerians and members of the Senate as well to ensure that they tackle corruption. Section 15 of the Constitution is very clear in that regard. So the least that the National Assembly, and in this instance the Senate, can do is to critically look at the allegations that Senator Ningi has made and go through a process that would ascertain whether what he said is false or wrong or not. And in this instance, Senator Ningi, for all purposes, and in conformity with the law, particularly international treaties that Nigeria has signed up to, in the absence of a substantive whistleblower law, is a whistleblower. And that is why we think that the Senate should refer this matter to anti-corruption agencies, particularly the ICPC and the EFCC, whose main job is to investigate allegations of corruption and come to a conclusion. Perhaps there are individuals that are culpable and they would face the law. That is the least the National Assembly can do, to demonstrate their willingness to fight corruption to their constituents and to the Nigerian people.
The Falana has talked about the relevant sections of the Constitution, Section 88. He made reference to Dino Melaye's case, and he has also said, look, the court has said that you cannot deprive a constituency of their representation in the National Assembly. From your own point of view, it looks that you have described that the National Assembly, the Senate, that is specifically, has erred in law about the suspension of Senator Ningi. Will they be able to reverse that decision?
Of course they can. There is no decision, whether it's by the executive or the legislature, that cannot be reversed. And that is why what is important now, in looking at the factual basis and the laws that regulate this particular incident, that Senator Ningi is recalled. And SERAP had gone to court too in 2017. And I recall clearly that in May 28, 2018, Honorable Justice Idris, as he then was, of the Federal Court, Lagos, had given a judgment compelling the then president, that was President Buhari, to do some of these things that we're talking about now, that we're asking the Senate leadership to do. The court in that case that SERAP had filed against the president and against the Attorney General had granted a judgment compelling the president to instruct anti-corruption agencies to investigate allegations of padding that was made then in the 2016 budget and to ensure that those who are culpable are brought to justice. As you would expect, that judgment is yet to be enforced. And now history, as it were, is repeating itself. So the best thing the Senate can do, apart from also referring this matter to anti-corruption agencies, is to recall Senator Ningi. And perhaps after the anti-corruption agencies have done their job and perhaps discloses that those allegations were false, that would perhaps be a basis for any kind of suspension, if there should be a suspension in the first place.
Because the reference as to what the court has said is that not even for a single day can the National Assembly, whether the House or the Senate, suspend any one of his own. He can punish in whatever way, but cannot suspend any of its members. But you imagine that this is a house of lawmakers. If the law says this is how it should be, perhaps there wouldn't be lawbreakers to reason with the law. But let's go to what concerns a lot of Nigerians. And are those who will say, and I know that you've been trying to break all of this down and analyze too at SERAP, that some of the things that Senator Ningi maybe is not put a proper perspective to what is said. There are items, that statutory items that are on the budget, running to about 3.3 trillion naira that we're not given details to, are looking opaque. And budget in appropriation bill or act should not be opaque. Every Nigerian should have access to what the monies of Nigeria is being spent on. Budget of the National Assembly, budget of the Judiciary, budget of UBEC, budget of INEC, are not giving details. Is that how it's supposed to be, Mr. Oluwadare?
Oh, certainly not, sure. And there are several issues to these allegations of padding, or perhaps what can be referred to as consensus projects. So, and it's very important that Nigerians understand the scope of these issues. What Senator Ningi is saying, and for a fact, what is happening, the allegations he has made, is that the National Assembly has inserted many projects into the 2024 appropriation bill that is now an appropriation act. It is a law, as it were. Specifically, the National Assembly inserted more than 7,400 projects. And you would understand that significantly increased the capital expenditure in the budget. So it is not enough that the National Assembly increased its own allocation to 344 billion naira. It is also not enough that the National Assembly had increased the total budget with over 1 trillion, amounting to 28 trillion. What is important within the context of this discourse is that the National Assembly inserted, and the emphasis is on inserted. It means they created more than 7,000 projects into the budget. And as if that is not enough, most of these budgets are so unclear and they are opaque in even the distributions and the line items. And then secondly, some of them are not broken down. They are just lump sums. And then thirdly, some of those ministries, departments, and agencies that these budgets have been allocated to, of course, do not have anything to do with such budgets. For instance, why would the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security be concerned with provision of buses and roads in Lagos State? You would wonder. These are those issues surrounding these allegations of padding and what Nigerians have come to understand as zonal intervention projects, which is called constituency projects, which is patently unlawful. There is no basis in law for why senators who have the statutory business of lawmaking should be involved in what is primarily the function of the executive. Perhaps, much more importantly, the abuse that we've seen over the years in the way these zonal intervention projects are run. And that is why it's very important that they just pay attention now and are able to speak up to ensure that the National Assembly does the right thing in this instance.
I'm wondering if all of these projects, yes, it's good to direct projects to your constituency, but whether or not all of these projects that are being inserted align with the agenda of the federal government in some of the projects in a nation that we are complaining that we do not have money. A 10 trillion perhaps is just about 5 trillion in value compared to what we know in January of last year. So the budget in itself and the value that are being transmitted in December amounts to less than that in the value a few months ago. But you will imagine, funnily, projects like infrastructure and provision of retaining wall across some selected Federal Unity College, equipping of workshops, technical catering to the tune of 1.96 billion. As if that is not enough. You see others to the tune of 5 billion in construction of Federal College of Education complex, construction of National Open University campus in Kaduna, 5 billion in each of those items. Construction of street lights,
as you were reading,
of traditional rulers.
It reads like a script in a movie, but a badly shot one for that matter, when you look at it. And that is why these kind of conversations form the crux of what the media should do statutorily under Section 22 of the Constitution, which is why I enjoin all Nigerians to get a copy of the Appropriation Act. It's on the website of the Budget Office of Nigeria, and look at these details. You would find these details there that would make every Nigerian ask pertinent questions. Why are we spending so much wastefully, unnecessarily, unjustifiably? Which is why the aim is to not to politicize this issue, but to ensure that Nigerians are able to hold a National Assembly. And each of those members are representing their constituencies to account for how these funds are meant to be spent. And I like what you said, Seun. The president, when he was signing the budget in January this year, called it a budget of renewed hope. So what is the basis of inserting more than 7,000 projects by the National Assembly? Does it coincide with the executive's renewed hope agenda? And don't forget, Sheil, if you look at the bill that the president has submitted, the appropriation bill, there is a window, there is an earmark of 100 billion naira to zonal intervention projects, which is called constituency projects, which of course, like I've said, is patently unlawful. But the lawmakers went over and above board by allocating more than 200 billion of budget of consensus projects in the budget, inserting it in various mid-MDAs, particularly the Ministry of Agric and Food Security carries more than 2,000 of those projects, which of course, most of it are not things that even the ministry itself is statutorily empowered to do. And it's just so sad.
I mean, it just looked like we are people of so much drama. In the midst of plenty, we get so little. It looks like we are in a cursed environment where we are so rich but so poor. And in that sense, even the lawmakers themselves are telling themselves that the integrity of the Senate, the Red Chamber, is called to a question. And they need to come out transparently and explain to Nigerians all the shenanigans that we are saying and perhaps make us understand the life of man. I don't really get it. But thank you so much, Kalawale Oluwadare, Deputy Director at SERAP, for giving us some insight on this matter.
Thank you very much.